Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Rad Conversations. This week, we have Rudy with us, and he's going to share his near-death experience that he had when he was 19 years old. Now, here's the twist. Even though he and I just met this week, I am part of his NDE. Stay tuned. Find out how. And remember, folks, if you're enjoying the show, please like, subscribe, and share. All right, let's dive into it, folks. Welcome to the show, Rudy.
Hey, I'm glad you invited me, and I appreciate being here.
Will you give our audience a little background about yourself?
Well, I've been a teacher for about 20 years, teaching blind, deaf, at-risk children. But then I retired last year, so I think it's just time for me to share my near-death experience again. I haven't really told my near-death experience for a while now, so. But I have some new thoughts about it. I died in 1981 in a car crash near Cleveland, Ohio. I was on my way to a military base. I was in the military at the time, and I was driving along a road. A huge storm came up, and rain was just coming down like crazy. And my car started to hydroplane. And there was no stopping it, though. It was literally being washed off the road. My MGB, it started to tumble sideways. And so rolled. And as I rolled, my head went through my left window, and it crashed through the window. Instantly, I was just somewhere else. I would say started at pre-birth. I was somewhere, and I knew that I was planning to go into a body. And so I remember specifically having like I had been planning this life that I was going to live. But then I started seeing everything from the very beginning all the way to the end of
you had a pre-birth experience. You remember
Right.
your pre-birth experience. Do you remember who you were with during your pre-birth experience?
Well, I have a clue, but I didn't actually see them. So I hate to say who it was, but maybe later on I'll indicate who I think it was.
Okay.
All right. I would call him the God of this world. I've called him the librarian, because he records everything that we do through our whole life. I mean, as if in a 3D perspective outside the body, but sometimes it goes in and out. But I suspect it was him. But I'll say that I was negotiating my life that was moving forward. And then I was in my body as a baby, and I noticed some very special things in my life. There were important moments, important events in my life that were highlighted. In other words, moments where you're just eating. Not every moment of my life was important, but the important moments, it seems like there was a pause, a time for observation, and then moving forward.
Can you remember some of those moments you saw in your life review?
Sure. For example, I remembered at the beginning of my life as a baby, my mother's love. I could feel her love, and it was just an important part of my birth. I wasn't somebody who was hated or abused or anything like that. So I remembered her love, and then we moved forward in my life, and I remembered playing jumping rope with the kids in my neighborhood. I remembered my time as a young man. I was 15, and I had started to learn how to fly. I became a student pilot, and I flew solo. I could see myself flying, not through my own eyes, but imagine a camera at the backside of your head looking down through you. I saw myself flying, and I just felt the exhilaration of being a pilot. It was exciting.
During your life review, I've heard a number of stories. People see different things. Some people see TV screens 360 around them, and their whole life is playing out on each different screen at a different point in their life. Like they're being a baby, teenager, adult, as a grandparent. And some people say they see their whole life review on bubbles coming down in front of them. Some say they see it on teardrops. What was the visual that you were seeing your life review on?
Imagine there's a 3D camera. If you're taking it from the observation of the cameraman, you would see through from behind my head, but there were other times where I could see through my own eyes. So it would change and transition. In fact, it would zoom in and out during certain times of my life. Go
In
ahead.
other past reviews I've heard, people were able to experience the effect they've had on other people or animals. Were you able to also experience that, the good and the bad? That maybe you said a mean word to somebody, and then you felt how they felt during that moment. Did you have any of that experience during your life review?
I would say um, highlights, kind of like imagine a highlight reel of your 10 most important minutes of your life. And I would see the highlights being love, kindness, compassion, mercy, joy. Those moments with my mother's love, my grandfather and I going fishing. I was out on the boat with my grandfather. The times when I was flying airplanes was, one of my very favorite experiences being a pilot. But I also saw when people were just strangers being kind to me. Now, those moments were really cool. But the other thing that was really noticeable to me was the sunrises and sunsets. In other words, somehow this camera was following me around my whole life, but I would see sunrises and going, and everyone that I ever actually physically witnessed. Now, I'm not saying I saw it, from a perspective of every sunset and sunrise of my life, but everyone that I actually experienced. And I noticed how beautiful it was. And it was an amazing sunrises and sunsets. So when I was out in nature, I would see landscapes of that I actually physically experienced. And I thought, well, that's the second most important after the moments of kindness and compassion, mercy that people showed me during my life, and they were highlighted. Okay, and I'm not saying I didn't have any negative um, experiences. I'm just saying for my particular life review, I was just shown the good stuff, what was good, what was important. And I think partially it's because I didn't have much to show for me being on the kindness side of the experience. I was shown mostly what other people had demonstrated to me. And it's like that's what's important. I wasn't shown eating, I wasn't shown working, I wasn't shown sex, I wasn't shown unimportant moments just sitting there watching television or whatever. It's like those were not important moments. And so for me, and I know that a lot of people see their negative experiences, and they were there, don't get me wrong, but they just weren't important in my life review. I was just getting shown, you know, here's the example of what you should live. And that was pretty different from what I expected. I was expecting that I was going to be highlighted for my hatred for people who weren't like me because God hated them. So instead, I was shown what God did love, and I say God uh, in a way that I want to say that it wasn't the God I had expected. The God I expected was pretty violent, but the God that I experienced in my life review was loving, and I'll just go that for right now. That's where I'll stick with that life review. But then my life review went right up to the moment of my accident. And okay, so imagine that I'm in my little MGB and I have my life review. And so while the car is actually rolling sideways and my head went the other direction through the other window of my car and it went through the other part. And then uh, and then my head went in and out of the windshield. So my body went and in and out. So and it pulled me back in. So at that point, I would say I was dead. First thing I noticed was that I was in a really deep, dark place, just the darkest darkness you could possibly imagine. But I felt no pain. I was just in this place, and I looked around, and there's nothing but darkness anywhere. And so, what do you do? I just looked up. And so when I looked up behind me, and how I know it was behind me, I don't know. I mean, I didn't see my body, but I could feel kind of like the motion of looking behind me, and I saw a light behind me. I looked up, and then I turned around, and I just felt love coming from it. I'm not saying what exactly that love is, but it was like a beam of light, and it's like a tractor beam almost. I was started going up into the light, um, just floating up, and but it was a little stronger than floating. It's just like drawn. I was getting drawn to the light, and so I started going up. And as I was going up, I noticed that I started seeing colors around me. So imagine if you were in a cone, you know, um, where you're at the bottom of it and it's really super dark, and then the colors start showing up: dark purples, dark browns. I started seeing these, very, very dark colors, almost like a washing machine kind of thing turning. And so it's turning, and it might have been me turning, but I could see this colors, and I could see some things beyond the colors and beyond this, this cone that I'm going up into. And the colors start getting lighter, almost like a rinse cycle. The colors are starting to bleed out, and this feeling of love above me. And never had experienced anything like that. But as I started going up, the colors would brighten and were brighter and brighter until it was bleached white, almost like a unimaginable light, so bright that it like bleeds out the colors of everything. So as I was going up, I went through a door, and as I went through the door, there was a ball of light there, kind of like a ping pong ball that's emanating brightness. Uh, it meets me right as I go through the door. And I want to say at this point, although my religion was Christianity, I kind of superimposed maybe Jesus like being over that ball of light, seemed to know everything about me, had my best interest at heart, kind of my buddy, my friend, and who'd been looking out for me. And so we immediately moved from him meeting me, and I say him because he felt masculine, and we were walking along, and then I go into like a cave, like a rounded cave, and on either side in the cave there were these alcoves. Okay, imagine for as far as you can go, and imagine going. There were alcoves on either side, and there were. So I went with him, this ball of light, to my alcove, I guess you would call it, where there was a pedestal, and on the pedestal was a book, and the book was open. And as I looked down at the book, I saw my life review again. So it was like my edited version with everything that we had talked about earlier that wasn't important was cut out. And I just saw what was good about my life in that little book. Well, I say little book, it was a big book, but in my little life, my little 10 minutes of experiencing love and compassion, mercy and beauty, kindness. And so I went with that recording or that book. I don't actually physically remember holding the book in my hand, but I remembered going to this ball of light and went to a door, and it was a massive huge door, huge giants. Got kind of a door where the knocker for it was way up high. And I was approaching the door, and I noticed that it was almost as if it was cut out with an axe, but it had beautiful ornate things in it, but it was very rough. Uh, but as before I actually went through the door, this ball of light, this Jesus-like being says to me, "Keep your head down, or you'll die." And I don't know why I knew I was dying down in my body, but I apparently, if I looked up at the light, I wouldn't be able to return back to my body because probably, with my guess is that I wouldn't want to go back.
So when the doors opened up and you guys go through the doors, you're not looking up, you're looking down. Is there a floor? Is there tables or chairs in there? Or, I mean, what do you see inside the doors?
Okay, so imagine an Olympic stadium. So I'm going into, like the largest field you can imagine, right? But it's not grass, but it's made of this. The flooring's like a marble floor, and there are these huge pedestals on either side of me. And I say that because I'm not looking up, but I could see to the left and right. Uh, I could see these huge ornate pillars, but so out of this room, it's just blasting light, just blasting through like a strength of the sun. And these pillars are off on the side, and I could tell that they have gems embedded in them, like really, like, you know, diamonds, rubies, all kinds of gems in them. And when I would look at them, they would start talking. It was like they were little recordings of 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 the person who had experienced something in their life, and they were like talking to me. And I couldn't pay attention to them, and I couldn't remember the conversation because they weren't the most important thing that was in front of me. This brilliant light that's like flowing over me because I'm looking down, but I could see that they had these little gems in them that were telling stories. And looking to the right and to the left, but even on the left and the right, there was like it was like a coliseum, and people were in the stands, and they were all like watching a show. Uh, Here I am, this punk military guy who I didn't have much to show for myself, but they were like cheering me on, and they were off to either side. And it's like everybody I will ever know, everyone I'll ever experience in my life, um, not just before that day, but all the way to the end of my life. It's like they were all there. Anybody I had any experience with in my life up till the moment of my death were all there, watching me grow as a human being, or I don't know. I mean, it seemed to me like they were just cheering me on and wishing me the best. Uh, Imagine, go ahead.
It and this, so the stadium's full with these people. It's everybody you met up to that point in your life at 19, or you're saying people that you will meet later in life were there also?
Yeah, yes, everyone,
Everybody.
everybody,
In your 100 years down here, everybody you're going to come across. So I was there actually,
right,
possibly.
exactly,
Oh, wow.
absolutely. Anybody that I had any contact with, who was there to see, kind of like this is you. We're waiting for you to finish your life and go do something with it. And it was imagine a little child who has just been born, and they're taking their first steps, and how proud everybody who sees that child taking their first steps. People on either side of me were there to witness this part of my life,
It,
and they were cheering
and
me on.
and I don't think we're meant to understand everything down here. I think we're down here living the human experience. If you can even articulate, how would that be possible if we're all up there with you at 19 and I've just met you this week?
Well, I'm pretty sure I know there's no such thing as time. So if you can have the perspective that everything that we're going to do has already been done. It's already happened. It's a recording. It's a program. It's it's on the hard drive somewhere, right? So it's there. Everything that you will experience in your life is recorded, and how you interacted with others is recorded, and your life will be touched by others, and how you will touch other people's lives. It's recorded. It's there. It's all there. It's already happened. There's no past tense, present tense. So it, there's a present tense, but in the present tense, imagine if everything's already happened and now you're just there, experiencing your life. And I wasn't shown at that moment, what I would do in the future. These people were celebrating me. And I'm not saying it was a bad thing or a good thing. I think it was just, I was curious,
Right.
what are all these people doing here? But they seem to be cheering me on, and they're celebrating who I was. And it's kind of like they expected more from me, but I felt like they were happy that I was there.
Thanks for watching the show, folks. We're going to have Rudy on the next episode to continue discussing his near-death experience. Now, if you're enjoying the show, please like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, like always, stay rad.